Right now in Tech Radio, what Ireland searched for in 24.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the very latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1048, looking back on the big stories of the week with, of course, Google telling us what we've been searching for most during the year. We'll also try and get in some expensive Bitcoin pizza and TikTok's American demise. Let's get to it.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, I suppose we just start briefly with Amazon AWS because it was on last week in Vegas. One or two things that caught your attention from that?
Yeah, reInvent being the big developer conference. So this is sort of a preview of things to come, but also from a very technical level as well. So AI, of course, the main development. A lot of talk of new chips and hardware that will help data centers keep up with the demands of AI, because we know AI is very heavy on compute power, but also regular power as well, which is, I'm sure, something we'll be talking about during the year an awful lot. So just three things that stood out for me anyway. One was the application of AI to security incident responses. So say, for example, you've got a data breach. Well, you've got already a suite of AI products there to manage your response. So it could be something like, we're going to notify either staff, or we're going to notify customers, or even better, we're going to notify the appropriate regulator. So a brand new service. So it's a little bit of the unknown, but it's all about preparing for, responding to, and recovering from the likes of takeovers, data breaches, and ransomware attacks. Now, the interesting thing for me is the recover from bit at the end, because as we know, whenever there is an attack and you have a double extortion attack, they rob your data, they encrypt it, and they potentially brick your machines unless you offer to pay the cyber criminals in Bitcoin. And traditionally, you think of the recovery effort as just getting the data back or restoring from a backup or something like that. One of the things that we talked about during an event we did last year in association with Rubrik, where we were talking about cybersecurity and recovery, was the actual emotional toll that recovery process takes on cybersecurity teams. That you have people working literally around the clock to reconstruct databases, to make sure the systems that are in place are up to spec, are adequate. And you don't think about the human toll of this. So having AI as not quite a fallback, but another tool in the arsenal, I think will be absolutely fantastic, not just from a technical capability perspective, but also from a team management perspective, and being able to tell your team, okay, you've done enough, go home, come back tomorrow.
How confident or reliant are they on this? Because AI, as we know, is prone to hallucinations.
It certainly is. And you know what? We would be smart people to not be completely sold on this new technology. But as it happens, Amazon also have been working on large language model hallucinations with mathematically sound, so they say, automated reasoning checks. So when you ask your large language model of choice, a question, you will get back an answer. Well, assuming you're using Amazon's product, you will get back an answer that has been filtered for what they're calling undesirable content. They're also talking about redacting personally identifiable information, enhancing content safety and privacy. So, say you have a question, but you don't really want to know about maybe certain topics that are tangentially related. Maybe you don't want adult sort of related content coming back to you in results. Particularly useful in a work environment where NSFW material is somewhat frowned upon, hence the FW part of it. So again, word filtration, contextual grounding checks, which sounds quite interesting, and automated reasoning checks, which means that you should get less in terms of hallucinations, but also less in terms of bad advice. as well as just being told something that's incorrect.
Now, do you know what I would love to invent? I would love to invent a way of installing this into my partner. I don't have to say any more, do I?
Not really, no.
Another thing I believe that came up at AWS was, I mean, the word for next year is going to be agentic, which is based on agent, which is essentially kind of each AI is seen as an agent and it's able to use its own agency to make its own decision.
Yeah.
But then it should be able to then interact and talk to other agents and other machines with complex tasks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do they have to say on that?
So this is a development Amazon were touting. I've heard of it. I think Salesforce have been kind of first to occupy my mind share when it comes to this is with AI agents, particularly in customer service, in removing that very basic tier of, hello, I can't access my account. Can you get me a new password? All that sort of basic level stuff. And even some stuff above that. Some stuff I would venture would be into Jobsworth territory. You know, I can't do this because it's against policy kind of things. And you can design agents to do whatever you want. Now, AWS are getting in on this, and what they are looking at is workflow, right? So say you have a supply chain, right? And you have somebody that is tracking, we'll say, the size of your fleet or the extent to which your orders are coming in. So do you need to get more vehicles to get people on the road to make sure things are delivered in time? So you might have one agent that's particularly good at tracking your fleet. You might have one agent that's particularly good at tracking your inventory, et cetera, et cetera. What they're talking about is having multi-agent collaboration. So you'll be able to tie together the different agents that are good at managing a particular task. Now, you know, the good part of this is that people will have to do even less, but also that you will be able to tweak little parts of what's happening just by specific agent. You'll be able to go, well, okay, there isn't an all-encompassing system. There isn't a mainframe, if you want to look at it in those terms. We just need to make a tweak over here, and this is the bot over here that needs that little tweak. And that's all you need. Now, the interesting thing from my perspective, and perhaps the concerning thing, is that we are always told about the role of the human in the loop. However, if the loop is expanding and the human's role in that loop is contracting, that turns us all into managers, and it reduces the level of maybe input that we have in changing the systems. Now, you look unconvinced.
No, I'm just remembering my phrase of 2024, which is AI, man's last invention.
Man's last invention. Okay. Right. Is this your own work, Dusty?
No, of course not. I heard it and I loved it. Anyway, that's interesting coming from AWS. On the consumer side with Amazon, good news for us here in Ireland is that Amazon.ie is coming in 2025. They haven't said when in 2025.
Yeah.
And I will be really annoyed if I have to wait another 12 months for it to get here. Anyway, Amazon.ie we'll have our own in 2025. They've just appointed Alison Dunn, the country manager. Now, she's been working with Amazon for a long time. She's from Dublin. She's with them over 10 years, I think. And I mean, Ireland is doing very well with Amazon. I read the other day that Irish businesses are selling, it's over 5 million products on Amazon.
Wow.
So, I mean, for a little country, once again, we are punching above our weight.
And I think we can thank Brexit for this particular development.
Oh, my God. Oh, absolutely. 100%. I am just fed up thinking about Brexit now I know it always works out, but there's always that one time when the knock comes on the door and it goes, yeah, there was a bit of duty on that.
Yeah,
and then you've got a processing fee, and then
it's the exchange rate that gets me more than anything else.
And there is that as well, you know, particularly at the moment as well, because the value of sterling has just shot up this week.
Yeah.
So,
and we can't be ordering off Amazon.de forever.
No, that's very true. So anyway, Amazon.ie coming in 2025. Right, let's get on to the meat and potatoes of our podcast for this week, because it is kind of the end of the year. Here we are, mid-December, in the middle of Dublin. It feels like, I was just saying this to you on the way in, it feels really quiet in the city. There's nobody around.
It does, actually. And we had a good walk around town, just sort of soaking in the
Well, we were
afternoon
hoping.
vibe.
Oh, we were hoping
Well,
to soak in the atmosphere.
I mean, we were expecting Christmas story level stuff of people running around with heavy bags full of presents.
Yeah,
and all that
and
kind
I'm
of
not
thing.
seeing that. And you know,
No.
I'm not seeing half as many Christmas decorations like in shops or on the streets or anything like that either.
The old stalwarts are still there and look fantastic. I mean, Grafton Street looks amazing. Always does.
Yeah.
George's Street looks pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Top of Camden Street, I can't remember if they have the big tree. They usually have a massive tree out. I can't remember if that's out there yet. But yeah, out where we're recording today in Dublin 8, it's not fantastic.
No, not at all. It's strange. Anyways, but we are coming towards the end of the year and we're kind of looking back at 2024. And always one of our favorite things to look at is Google and to see what people in Ireland were searching on Google. So what are the big things that are striking your head?
Do you know what? The end of year list for Google is always a mix of course and what the hell is that?
All right.
How out of touch am I that I don't know what's going on here?
And you know what? It's also kind of full of, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
That thing happened.
So I bet you, because one of the things that I got surprisingly interested in this year was the Euro finals.
Right.
So Euro 2024. And I bet you that's mentioned. But that's something I've almost forgotten. It's only that it's the end of the year and we're talking about this that I've remembered it.
Well, we're used to such a high turnover event and, things were overshadowed by the American election. But yeah, Euro 2024, still the top overall search for Google in Ireland this year.
Beating even the Olympics.
Even beat the Olympics.
Wow.
The Olympics is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the list.
No.
Yeah. US election is second. Followed by Kate Middleton, who, as we know, had her health problems this year and people were very concerned about. And more searched than the Olympics, Baby Reindeer.
Oh, that was a great series. Did you watch it? Did you?
Do you know, I caught the first episode and I was like, this is a bit grim.
Oh, it gets even grimmer. You have to watch it. That was a great series.
Yeah, and I'm sure it is fantastic. And Piers Morgan actually had the woman on. I can't remember her name. And that actress did such a fantastic job. Such a fantastic job. It's incredible. Sometimes, there's an awful lot of talented actors out there and they just need the right part to show what they can do. And I think Baby Reindeer is an example of that on both fronts.
Yeah.
Now, just under the Olympics, would you hazard a guess as to what was occupying the minds of Irish people?
Oh, let me see. Well, it would be Irish people in the Olympics, I would imagine.
Oddly not.
Boxing girl? What's her name?
No. Keisha Taylor was not even. Well, actually, hang on. She was on the. If you break it down, she was on. No, she didn't even make it to the sports list.
I've forgotten their names now, but during the Olympics, it was like I had them all off the tip of my tongue, no bother at all.
Yeah.
Like it's funny how it
that
goes.
is actually
Anyway.
really surprising, I have to say. So come on, you've got a few things in your noggin that happened this year.
Oh.
We've talked about lots of stuff that seeped into the mainstream.
Well, I kind of want to get onto the tech stuff. So that's what I'm interested in. But like the general kind of stuff, I suppose, the Euros Olympics, there were an awful lot of elections this year because I think it was over half the planet were electing new governments. So that would have been. Baby Reindeer. Yeah, you've reminded me of that. What else? There was one that I read about just getting ready for the show, and it was a viral marry me chicken recipe, which topped the list. Now, I didn't even hear about this.
No.
So what is it?
Right. It's an actual dish. It's a chicken recipe, right? And it involves the ingredients of chicken, cream, sun-dried tomatoes, and Parmesan cheese.
Oh, it sounds heavenly.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll marry you if you make that for me every day.
The route to a man's stomach is through. The route to his heart is through his stomach.
Absolutely,
and that's proof positive. Guess what? Right, here's something interesting.
Go on.
The more searched than Donald Trump in Ireland, right? Bambi Thug.
Eurovision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a fair chunk of that would be curiosity, because Bambi was doing just fine before Eurovision. She was building up a little following. She'd done the Download Festival. She was making roads into the metal sector. And then Eurovision just seems to have done her a power of good. So,
Or has it? Because have we heard of Bambi Tug since?
Oh, she's doing a European tour. Like, I mean, she's doing fine.
Is she the new Johnny Logan? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't think we'll be getting. I mean, her performance was just iconic, and we're not going to be able to do something like that
Actually,
again.
in all fairness, yeah, when I think about it, she did do us proud, and she behaved herself
was
very well, and she
fantastic.
made an impression, which is good.
Yeah.
Listen, let's get on to the tech
get
stuff.
on to the techie stuff.
Tech.
Yeah.
It's tech radio. What have we been searching about for tech? Start at the bottom and work your way up.
Okay, so at the very bottom, who in their right mind does a Google search for YouTube?
It shouldn't be in tech, but I know exactly what that is, right?
Yeah.
And I bet you ChatGPT is in there as well, right? That is
Yep.
people, I see them do it all the time. There's the address bar, okay?
Yeah.
You go youtube.com, it brings you straight to YouTube. But because Google is the default page, what they do is they put it into the search bar, YouTube, then it comes up first result, and then they click on that link. It's just...
It's like everybody has, we'll put it this way, an older relative. Who'd be like, how do you get to YouTube? I just Google it.
That's it.
It's like, is there a way of, inflating your Google searches? That's exactly what
So go
it
on,
is.
skipping up past all of those then. What's the first interesting thing on the list?
So the first interesting thing on the list is the, 7th place entry, which is Infinite Craft.
Okay.
I have no idea what that's about.
All right. Okay. Well, then move on.
So out of touch.
Next.
Followed by Block Blast.
And you've no idea what that is.
No idea what that is.
All right, okay.
I'm taking it to mean to be related to Roblox.
I suppose the big stories then that we probably would have covered then, that I bet you one of the phones is in the list. Is it Samsung's release?
No, the iPhone 16 ranks at number 4.
Interesting.
And oddly enough, that is the only gadget that is in the tech sector.
Wow.
The tech section. The only actual product.
And there's so many gadgets that you can get.
Yeah.
We got a good response to the toy show last week, and I had a couple of messages in about the camera printers I was talking about, and the photo
very
printers,
good.
which was quite nice. So thank you to Ken, I remember specifically. But gadgets, I mean, so the iPhone 16, you've got the Samsung with their foldables, which I think are interesting. You've got some very nice laptops that are out there. So we've had some good tablets this year. iPhone 6, why? There wasn't anything particular special about the iPhone 16.
I don't think so. I mean, nothing that you'd certainly go Googling about.
Yeah.
There just must have been a lot of people on the upgrade cycle, and it was their time. I don't know. Second in the list.
Yeah.
Shop like a billionaire, Dusty. Do you want to shop like a billionaire?
This is the Chinese website.
This is Temu. Yeah,
Okay.
for good reasons and bad.
Okay.
Because as we know, Europe is not happy with Temu. In particular, the element of counterfeit products or products that actually don't live up to the billing.
I've heard of a lot of people who see the picture and they see the product and then they order it, and it's like a dress that they want to wear to a party, and then when they receive it, it's like a doll's dress.
Yeah. Just bad quality merchandise.
Yeah.
Ill fitting, whatever. I mean, we saw another example I saw was somebody that had ordered a carpet, and what they got back was like a square of carpet, probably the size of a laptop. It's like, you know what? You saw it, you bought it. Actual size.
But it's cheap as chips.
Cheap as chips.
And actually, do you know what? That's probably a good thing, because if you know you're buying absolute rubbish, it's like, throw a few quid on it, and then you've got that little, the package is coming. It'll be here on Thursday, and here it is, open it up, do all that kind of stuff, and you haven't lost a load of money, even if it is tat.
Yeah. I mean, the only actual story related thing in the top 10 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th most searched tech term in 2024 in Ireland, CrowdStrike. And we'll be talking about that again on our roundup of the year.
We will.
So we'll not get to, but I mean, in terms of like stories, that's the only term that's linked with it. Everything else you can imagine just people Googling and sort of going, yeah, I want to go to that website. I'll put it into Google, as we talked about earlier. But I mean, the average person doesn't know or care about CrowdStrike. And yet, there it was in the top 10.
Yeah, well, until your flight is delayed.
Well, yeah, or
then you know all about it.
Or it doesn't show.
Or
is
or
cancelled
whatever the case
whatever.
may be. All right, well, an interesting take in on, and it's a good reflection on society. Do you know what we should do is maybe dig out the records and go back 10 years and see what we were searching on Google 10 years ago. That could be interesting.
That would be interesting.
For another day.
Let's park this and come back to it. I'll create a folder specifically for it.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
Okay, some other quick tech stories that are making the news this week. As you know, I love space and all things associated with it. And disappointed to find out that the moon Artemis mission has been delayed for a second time to April 2026. This is going to be Artemis 2. And the idea is, just like they did back in the late 60s, is that this mission is going to go all the way to the moon, go around the moon, and then come back again just to make sure that all the systems are working.
Sure.
And then, providing that works, then they will send the full landing module. But it's been delayed again until April 2026.
Why does it have to be delayed that long?
It's all to do with the movement of the celestial bodies and what they think the weather will be and the winds, and then the technical and the bureaucracy and everything that they have to go through, the billions of things.
Right, okay.
Billions of things, right? The reason why it has been delayed is because the first Artemis mission that they put up, when it was coming back, everything worked flawlessly, right?
Right.
And when it was coming back to Earth, there was a problem with the heat shield.
Right.
Now, that is a problem, because if that heat shield goes and there's somebody in it, it's like, everybody burns up. And we've had it happen before. But with Artemis 1, they had a small problem with the heat shield. A small part of it fell off. There were no passengers in there, but lots and lots of measurement things. And they said even without that small part of the heat shield, temperatures were safe. And if there had been astronauts in there, they would have landed. No problem.
Yeah.
So, but I suppose that's the kind of thing where you just can't take chances.
No. That, it's like, I think 2010, that movie was a good example of something really tiny going wrong that becomes absolutely huge. Or, come on, Apollo 13.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Something really small. We need 9 volts.
Yeah.
From somewhere.
That's it. Yeah.
To turn it
it's
on.
a power calculator. Or if you look at, do you ever watch Air Crash Investigation? I used to watch that a lot on Discovery. It was always something small. It was a hairline crack in a single nut.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then that went, and then it had kind of a domino effect, and then the plane was lost, which is a nice way of saying it crashed in a fiery fireball. However, so I suppose, they do the abundance of caution. That's a real American phrase. That, and what's the other one? Persevere. We shall prevail. That's it. We shall prevail.
I should use that when it comes to washing the dishes.
Yeah.
Out of an abundance of caution, I am not going near the sink.
What else have we got going on state-wise? Now, Mr. Trump back in power in January. It looks like the day before he is sworn in as the president, that TikTok will be banned in the USA.
Yeah, now you remember this was a bill signed into law back in April 2024 by President Biden. That's when all this started. And the concern was that TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, ByteDance. The concern is that data created by American users could potentially be used by a hostile foreign power. ByteDance say no, absolutely not. The American government said, well, do you know what? We're not taking any chances out of an abundance of caution. ByteDance, if you want to, TikTok, if you want to keep operating in the States, ByteDance has to sell the US operation.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of shopping around, was Oracle interested? Was Dell interested? I think an awful lot of big tech players were approached and everybody turned it down. So it was looking increasingly like, okay, you're going to be banned. That's it. Originally, there was a 6-month deadline. ByteDance appealed and has just had its appeal failed. The appeal was rejected. So I'm looking at the scale of things. I mean, TikTok has 170 million users in the US alone. and it brought in $16 billion in revenue just from the US. And like you think about, Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. And that was like, oh my God, such an audacious. Yeah. TikTok apparently is worth $100 billion.
And you see, that's where I wonder how it will play. All right. So if you're turning over 100 billion and then 15% of that is gone, do you kind of say, right, well, do you know what? To heck with them. We're just going to pull it out of the market and we'll be happy with the 85% we still have.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you would have to look at the volume of content being created, how commercially relevant it is, and, does the American market justify itself?
I would. I think if I was Mr. ByteDance, I would say I would try and do... I would try and stay in the States, all right, because 15% is a considerable percentage. But what would worry me more is that if I was to vacate the space, it creates a vacuum that will be replaced by somebody else. And particularly in the States, that replacement could end up being a global success that would eat me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty much what they have in China. I mean, they've got Alibaba instead of Amazon, for example.
Yeah.
And it's, quite similar in Russia as well, where Google is banned.
Yeah.
So what's the equivalent? Is it Yandex? Can't remember. But you're right. I mean, if big tech vacates certain countries, there's always something to step in with some sort of facsimile. So what would TikTok USA look like? Who knows? I mean, if I was ByteDance, and all of a sudden my content, the volume of content on my service is falling off a cliff because Americans are very, very good at sharing, as we know. I mean, that's something that, that affects my bottom line. If there isn't new stuff for people to share and to engage with.
I think it will be interesting to see if TikTok is... And I think when the ban comes, it's going to be that it will be banned. I don't think American people will be banned from using it. But I think the TikTok company will be banned from distributing their app on Apple or Google Play or whatever. Yeah. And it'll just kind of die a slow and painful death. But anyway, but I can imagine, I can see, it's really interesting what's going on with politics and American politics at the moment, because there seems to be like certain wars are wrapping up. And then TikTok, which he wanted banned, is going to be banned.
Well,
do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's like everything will be done the day do you know what I think he wants to do? He wants to go into office on the 20th and go, there you go, 5 p.m, I've done it all.
Well, do you know what? I think TikTok could be Trump's first gift to the nation.
Gift?
Like TikTok has to be done and dusted by the 19th of January.
Yes.
What happens the day after? I mean, the man will be in office. He will go, well, as a sign of my benevolence, I'm not going. Yeah, I think that kind of sums him up, actually. But anyway, as a sign of my benevolence, I will not enforce this law. TikTok, hang around, maybe we'll talk terms.
Yeah, well, listen, speaking of Trump anyway, it looks like his time in office is going to be very good for anybody who's interested in crypto and the like, because he's putting a lot of very interesting people in place. He has his new crypto czar at the White House is going to be David Sachs, a guy, he keeps banging on about Solana and stuff like that. But his company has invested a lot in crypto, and he's very, very pro crypto.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to have him in there from that side of things. Then also leading the Presidential Council of Advisors for Science and Technology and stuff like that as well will be Mr. Sachs. And then he worked with, he was I think he was before Elon Musk in PayPal.
Right.
South African guy as well, which is kind of interesting as well, Then there's another guy, Paul Atkins, who's going to be the SEC chair, and he is very anti-regulation, which of course crypto people love.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I mean, David Sachs is his entire title. He's going to be White House AI and Crypto Czar. Now, the important thing to note there is that a czar isn't a political appointee. Right? It's sort of a czar is somebody that overlooks the entire policy portfolio or
Grant,
something.
like
right?
Musk is, because he's South African. I don't think he can hold off. He certainly can't be president.
Yeah. I'm sure he is citizenship though. But it's just somebody that acts as a policy advisor, right, to the president. So Trump is picking people from all over industry, and I don't want to say installing, but nominating them for these particular roles, while appointing secretaries who seems their job is to dismantle the authorities and the systems they will be put in charge of managing. So if you want actual advice on things, Trump will have his czars. And if he wants something destroyed, he'll let the secretaries do it. But here's the thing, like, will any of them be, actually make it past the make it past the Senate in terms of their appointments? Because the appointments have to be, they have to be approved, which is something we don't have over here. It's just sort of, there's your ministry, have a good time.
Grant.
Whereas they don't do it over there. So yeah, as you say, he's a Musk guy. Mr. Sachs, looking forward to making your acquaintance. We'll see. Now, subtext here, and this is interesting. Sachs will be responsible for AI and crypto, but on the release it also mentioned his commitment to free speech and combating bias in big tech. Here's the thing.
That's loaded.
When it comes to, conspiracy theorists or the current conservative outrage about bias in big tech, usually it comes with, if you actually look for facts, you'll realize that bias just means doesn't align with our ideology. That's what they refer to as bias, not being factually accurate or not. And this applies pretty well in AI, where we know that there is bias, and bias is a huge problem, as is hallucinations. So what you have is somebody that is appointed to steer policy on something that actually is a legitimate problem, but the solution will come from a particular ideology as opposed to a technical solution. And that's where we're going to have a lot of problems. This is something that we see in conspiracy theorists all the time. They will take a nugget of something that either is true or might be true and build out an entire mythology around why something is so. And it can be as wide-ranging as you like. They will just draw, completely inappropriate conclusions from something that, actually, in fairness, there is a nugget of truth to it. We know there's a huge problem of bias in AI. This does not mean it's bias against conservatives, and there needs to be a conservative reaction or overreaction.
Well, listen, no matter what your bias is or what way you look at the world, one thing is for sure, next year is going to be very interesting. One last story kind of in around Bitcoin and crypto, because it's in around the $100,000 mark at the moment. It's exceeded that. I'm still waiting for it, time of publication, to exceed €100,000, because we are in Europe and that's what we're interested in.
Yeah.
But when it exceeded the $10,000 mark, I was reminded of the Bitcoin pizza story. Have you heard this?
No.
It is the first ever Bitcoin transaction where somebody used Bitcoin to purchase something.
Right.
All right. And that purchase was for not one, but 2 pizzas. All right. Guy went on a message board and he goes, whatever, I got this stupid Bitcoin stuff. I'll tell you what, if anyone wants to send me 2 pizzas, I'll give you 10,000 Bitcoin.
Ooh, okay. Those are expensive pizzas.
This is back in 2010, all right? Now, the guy says he has no regrets, because he said back in 2010, they were worth pennies. He literally bought them for a cent.
Yeah.
He said it wasn't even worth $20 for the 10,000 coins, all right?
Yeah.
And he just kind of went, whatever, it's gone. But if he had kept those 10,000 multiplied by 100,000 per coin, you're looking at over $1 billion today.
I hope the pizzas were good.
I bet they were. Listen, that's it for the for news this week. Niall, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some other stories that we have online on the website for you, including...
Yeah, we have our first TechCentral.ie webinar where we were looking at the year in compliance. We also have a report backed by Friends of the Earth that says data centres will make Ireland miss its sustainability targets. And lastly, distributor Micro Warehouse gets acquired, and you will never guess by who.
The answers and more all on our website at techcentral.ie for you right now. On the podcast, we're back again next Friday. It'll be the last one of the year, looking back at 2024, the big stories that caught our attention. That'll be here online and with RT Radio 1 Extra. And also Jason Walsh will be joining us over the Christmas period, and we'll be looking ahead to 2025. So do remember, please share the podcast with a friend. Tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify or YouTube for all the goss and the chat from here in Ireland. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks as always for listening. Have a great Christmas.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.